For Fenton Area Public Schools parent Madison Forman, she says that she was very excited when the district decided to not make masks required for the school district. Now, this letter was sent to families last week. They lifted this requirement on February 16th. Madison Forman tells me that her and her husband decided to keep their two children home for the last 2 years. Their two kids do virtual through the school district. She says that she made the decision because her daughter has asthma and her son has ADHD.
I wasn't going to send my kids to sit in a classroom for 8 hours with a mask on their face that they're not trained to wear. They don't know how to wear it correctly. They're going to be touching it, moving it all over the place. My daughter has asthma. She already has trouble breathing. Why am I going to put something on her face that's going to restrict her breathing more? My son has ADHD. He can barely have a pencil in his hand without tapping it, let alone something else to play with. It just didn't make sense for us to send them.
Well, many districts in the state of Michigan have lifted the masking requirement. The Michigan Parent Alliance for Safe Schools says this: only 26% of 5 to 11-year-olds have received at least one dose of the COVID-19 vaccine. That's according to the state's data. 47% of children 12 through 15 have received at least one dose of the COVID-19 vaccine. They are asking for data from districts and health departments on why they decided to end the mask requirements. Right now, the CDC says the state of Michigan is in high transmission. This parent group says masks should be required until the state is in substantial spread. And they're asking for ventilation changes in schools.
Governor Whitmer is touring the state right now, touting her proposal to roll back the retirement tax. Today, she met with UAW retirees in Bay City, and Mid-MichiganNow's Justin Dirks was there and asked the governor how much this could save retirees and how likely she thinks it could pass.
Here at City Market, many UAW workers seem to be in favor of Governor Whitmer's pension tax repeal.
10 years ago, the legislature changed the rules, pulled the rug out from a lot of people who worked a lifetime, played by the rules. All of a sudden, their retirement was taxed.
If rolled back, Governor Gretchen Whitmer says it will save retirees on average $1,000 a year on their 401ks, IRAs, and pensions.
I think it's time to roll that back, so that's what I propose.
This proposal still needs approval from the Republican-led legislature. I asked her how she plans on getting bipartisan support. She cited the state surplus.
We've turned a $3 billion projected deficit into a $7 billion surplus. This is an opportunity for us to make the tax code fair, and that's what this is all about. We want to encourage people. Let your legislators know how you feel about this.
Governor Whitmer is up for re-election in November. I spoke with a political analyst who thinks this is just a campaign move to get more votes.
It's a great campaign slogan to say, elect so-and-so, they cut taxes. And it's always popular to do those kind of things. But as I say, in the long run, we may end up paying for it.
Retired political science Mott College professor Paul Rosicki thinks this plan makes sense politically, but will more than likely not pan out financially.
Right now, the state's got a lot of money from some COVID funds, like most states do, and the budget's in pretty good shape. But those monies aren't going to be there forever. And 2 or 3 or 4 years down the road, if we end up cutting taxes, we may end up talking about some financial problems the state's facing.
A decade ago, Republican Governor Rick Snyder was in office when this retirement tax was put in place. Now, to gain Republican support, Rosicki thinks the GOP will want cuts for corporations to repeal this tax.
If they can do that, that's no small accomplishment these days when it's so hard to find some bipartisan agreement on anything.
Now, the next stop on this tour has not been officially announced just yet.
As the aging population increases, caregivers are becoming more in demand, but a local facility says it's having a hard time meeting that need. Mid-MichiganNow's Remy Murray is here with more. Hi, Remy.
Good morning, Mike. Right at home, Genesee County President Scott Hill tells me the pandemic is causing an economic and employment crisis for the caregiving industry. He also says it's a possibility some may feel burnout as a result of the pandemic, too.
Without enough caregivers, you can tend to rely more on the caregivers that you do have, and you have to be careful not to, overwork them.
Not to mention, Hill says there are clients with concerns about COVID-19, making it even more difficult.
Some clients do not want any caregiver in their house who has not been vaccinated. And so that's another layer of challenge we have to, work with, trying to get our caregivers vaccinated and matching up the best caregiver with the best fit client.
Hill is hopeful the shortage won't last too long. In the meantime, he says right at home Genesee County will continue to survive and adapt, and the facility has caregivers like Greg Gordon to help.
I personally feel called to do this caregiving work, almost like missionary work.
After 16 years in the industry, Gordon is confident this is where he's supposed to be despite the challenges.
It brings great joy to my heart. It really does, whatever situation is at hand, and if God has called me to be in this certain situation to try to solve the problem or share solving the problem with other people.
At the age of 63, Gordon understands the importance of his mental health. So outside of work, he prioritizes eating healthy, working out, and playing his musical instruments. But he says his biggest source of peace is through God.
I try to concentrate on how can I be a manifestation for God's love. Really, when it boils down to it, that's what we're really all here for.
And if there's anything he can pass along to other caregivers, it's this.
Let's be kind and loving and focus on the positive. Truly, like the scriptures tell us, and just about every spiritual practice of the world says, the greatest of these is love.